Evening all. As ever, you're watching the Choose Room podcast. Friday night show. Probably a little bit sadder than usual because Harry Kane is currently in Munich having his medical, probably followed up by some Bavarian beer and a bratwurst. So it's changing times for Spurs, but we're here to be with you and hold your hand through this Friday night. We're going to get through it. It's going to be group therapy, and we've got a match to look forward to as well with Spurs facing the trip to Brentford this weekend. So, as ever, I'm joined by some illustrious guests. So let's get around the room. I woke him up about 5 minutes ago. For once, it wasn't my fault we're late. JP, how are you, sir?
I've been better. I've gone through a full roller coaster of emotions in the last, 36 hours or something. So I'm tender. Be gentle with me. Like all Spurs fans now, we need a big warm hug from our glorious father, Ange Postecoglou. But we'll get through.
We'll get through, and thanks for getting up and making the show.
This is not the first time this has happened.
No.
It's 6 a.m. over here. Give me a break.
Normally Cam gives you the wake-up call, so I thought I'd better give you a call. Joining us from Spurs Talk Show, Sean, welcome back to the show, my friend. How are you, sir?
Yeah, good guys. Yeah, obviously sad, but I'm looking forward. Like the morning period for me is done. I felt sad for about 10 minutes, and then I started thinking, all right, how do we get through it? Let's step forward. Don't no backward steps. But great to be back on the channel. Looking forward to talking all things Tottenham this evening.
Yeah, and Stuart for the second time in 2 days back with me, my doppelganger apparently. So welcome back. I'm not sure if that's a compliment or not really, but we'll take it either way. I mean, not everyone gets to look this good. So how are you this evening?
Yeah, pretty much the same as we were when we sort of ended the show last night, really, just with a little bit more certainty than we had then. Yeah, like JP, been through a sort of round the house of emotion throughout the day, largely trying to be positive, which I always try to be. And like Sean, we just need to move on now that, Kane's not looking back, so we can't either. So let's do it.
Absolutely. And there is a match on tonight. I've got it on the big screen in here, 2-0 to City, and I'll keep you updated with any goals as it happens. Haaland, already doing the business for everyone's dream team with a brace. JP, let's start with you as you're fresh to this news. How are you feeling? And are you gutted? What are your thoughts?
So I'm pretty sure it's on record that I was in the camp of let's just sell him. Let's get it done. And like a week ago, I was probably at the point of like, I'll be disappointed if he doesn't go. Not because I hate Harry Kane and I think we're a better team without him, because clearly we're not. But I figured we may as well just bite this rebuild in the... Oh, mate, words aren't my thing this morning. Bite this rebuild in the butt. I was going to say, is that a saying? It is now. Let's go with it. Just bite off this rebuild, get going. And then Daniel Levy became my favourite person when he started like making Bayern look like a little bitch and like going on holidays and just tagging them around. And I was like, yeah, this is right. This guy's redemption arc is like starting. We're going to keep him. He's going to sign a new contract. It's going to be beautiful. And then 2 days before the season starts, he's like, yeah, nah, I'll take it. And for like, I don't know, what, 5 million more than they were offering last time or something like that. And so I was just like, gut punch. And so now Daniel Levy is a little weasel again. And Harry Kane means nothing to me. And my whole life has fallen apart.
Yeah.
So I don't really know. Somewhere between where I was a week ago and where I was before I went into bed is how I am with the news that you've given me 3 minutes ago that he's now in Munich having a medical. The only saving grace...
By lunchtime, you'll be fine, mate. By lunchtime, you'll be back cruising, straight on the let's move forward path,
And that's just it. It's like, I'll get back there, but right now I have to deal with like 8 years of glory have just been snapped away from me just when I thought I was going to lock it down for another 6. So, I don't know. We'll get there.
Sean, are you in the let's move on camp? Are you happy that we've sold? I mean, not happy that we've sold him, but is this the least worst option?
Yeah, 100%. It's the least worst option for sure. I think that the money that he's got for it, if it's true, it's 120 million pound or 100 up front, 20 million pound. That's with achievable, accessible, add-ons. I think it's really good business. I think he was probably helped a little bit by the inflation that's taking place in the market right now. Some of these stories that are going around. If, for example, Livramento is never a 40 million pound player. Caicedo, Declan Rice, the list goes on. Even players like Rasmus Højlund, if the guy he was 15 months ago, that guy was playing in front of 500 people in away games at Copenhagen, and suddenly he's worth 75 million because he scored 10 goals for Atalanta. Great talent, but it sets precedents. And for me, so 120 million, I think is really good for a guy in the situation that he's in. And look, we're definitely going to miss him. It's going to be impossible to get the 30 goals, but as long as that money has not already been spent, that to me is the kicker, right? As long as there is a large chunk of that money that can still go into what we have left to, what holes we have left to fill. I'm sure we're going to talk about that, but as long as that happens, then I'm okay. If that money seems to falls back into a black hole, and we don't see it again until January, or we never see it again, then obviously I would rather have taken the chance with Harry Kane and seen what we could have done. But I'm leaning into what little faith I have left in Daniel Levy to do what's right for the team here over the next 3 weeks. And we'll see if he lets me down or not. But yeah, generally, I think I'm okay with it.
Faith as small as a mustard seed.
Yeah.
Stuart, your thoughts?
Pretty much the same as last night, really. I think that, Levy was in a no-win situation with this scenario because, he either takes the money at whatever time during the summer. Everyone wanted it done early, regardless of how stupid a fee that Bayern came to us with, and he would have got slaughtered for that. He's got a really good fee for a 30-year-old in the last year of his contract who doesn't want to sign a new one. He's getting slaughtered for that. And he would have got slaughtered for it if he was allowed to stay and he saw out the last year of his contract and left on a free. So there was no win for him on that. And to be fair, I don't really care because that's your job as chairman. To be fair, he's not there to be liked. He's just there to do what's the best ultimately for the football club. And as Sean said, if that money gets reinvested, then fantastic because it helps Ange speed up the rebuild that was ultimately it's going to take time anyway. But without Kane there to sort of have that transition so we're not dropping an immediate amount of goals. I don't believe in it's impossible to get his 30 goals. I don't think anything's that very much impossible, but it just means that a hell of a lot of players have all got to step up now. And ultimately, this is a great opportunity for them to do that. Everyone to come out from under Kane's shadow and do their jobs because everyone's relied on Kane for too long. So let's see what happens. We're not going to get anyone in before Sunday, so we just need to get through Sunday and get a positive result. If we can get a positive result against Brentford, we can build on that.
Do you think, Sean, that there's a buyback clause in it? Maybe that was being talked about early doors in the deal, wasn't it? So that we maybe get the first refusal on Kane, perhaps.
I don't know, to be honest. I haven't heard anything about that today. You would have thought something like that would have probably got out to one of the people who know. I'd like to think it would be in there. It would be lovely if he could come back, in 2 or 3 years' time, say, and finish off his goal record at Tottenham. What I still wouldn't like to see is an eventual scenario where he does end up back in the Premier League, but not at Tottenham. So it'd be nice to get the option, the first refusal. But if I'm entirely honest, that's something we'll kick the can down the road on that. It's the least thing on my mind right now. For me, I want to look at, recent stories of teams and clubs that haven't been afraid to sell one of their best assets at peak valuation with the intention of going and rebuilding their squad. And I think the best example of that was Liverpool with Coutinho. And, they went and used that money. And a lot of Liverpool fans were like, why are we selling our best assets? That's an unambitious type of thing to do. But the Liverpool owners went and bought, Virgil van Dijk and Alisson with it. And that was the start of their own kind of redemption arc for their football club. So if Tottenham can, I don't care. I mean, at the moment, yes, it'd be lovely to see Harry Kane back in a few years' time. But right now, I want to see Tottenham go and, figure out some way to help Sonny and Richarlison and Decky with maybe, someone like Gift Orban, whoever. There's lots of other names out there, but someone that's exciting that we can all get behind and build for the future with. But also, of course, I think we've got a lot of problems still at the back, not just in the central defence as well. I think we've got an issue that no one's talking about at right back. I think Emerson Royale being our only recognised defensively capable right back. I don't know. There's a worry that if he gets injured, what do we do? So I'd like to see some of that money go in that direction.
Yeah, Porro's not filled us in confidence in pre-season, that's for sure.
Mm.
Just want to say, I've just seen Kane's passed his medical, so they're saying it's going to be announced imminently.
There's a shot. Yeah.
Do we want updates like that, or do we just want to?
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine, Stuart. Keep it coming. You can be on that, and I'll just tell you how many City are winning by. That's fine. But we have had a super chat in the meantime. So thanks for your support, Dan, the mob drummer. Also, Channel Member. So shout out to you. Do we think the money's already been spent? So I was going to kind of come on to this next anyway. So obviously we've got between 120 million sterlings in our back pocket. Just want to point out our net spend this window is something like 184 million euros. So what's that? 150 million quid, 140 million quid. So that would give us a net spend of about 40, right? Outlay. Has the money already been spent, Sean?
You can't. If that net spend of 40 also includes Decky and also includes Porro, then in reality, we were all promised those signings before. If we can't roll these over, January wasn't a zero window. January had the 40 million baked in then. Decky was baked into last summer when people were having the argument about whether or not he was backed. So, to me, I'd wipe those off. And I think on the basis of that, they were actually net positive to about 25 million. And so that's not something that you want to see. And you don't want to have to argue that if you're Daniel Levy for a guy who's coming in as part of a new project. He needs to be backed. He needs to have the financial backing of the chairman and the owner. And so I would be absolutely incandescent with rage if I thought that we weren't going to go and use that money over the next 3 weeks in some areas of the pitch.
The fans cannot want that to be part of this year's budget as much as they want, and you can do optics and whatever. The reality is that if it wasn't part of this year's budget, we would have signed Decky cheaper on a permanent the year before. So it absolutely is part of this year's budget. I think we've said when we kind of go back through, we've got an average kind of net spend of around 150 million that we've got to play with. So I think last time I was on the show. Yeah.
Well, that's more or less that's the difference between what Spurs generate and what they spend on wages, stadium, etc.
Yeah. And so we're sort of sitting on thereabouts what we probably would have expected to pay in a season where Kane leaves. I think Levy would like it to be that 100 side. So we might have spent some of it. I think we ended up spending some of it because we spent more than we initially thought on Van de Ven. But there has to be players coming through. I'm not of the opinion that it's a centre forward we need to go and waste our money on, but there has to be more players coming through.
Sticking with that, JP, what's your view on the priority? I'm
somewhat with the guys below me. You're below me for you as well? Yeah, cool.
Yeah.
I'm somewhat with him that the right side of our squad feels light. Porro is weak defensively and a problem. I would have thought Jed Spence would have been the backup and you'd push Porro further forward as a right wing option as that kind of third rotation for down back, but he doesn't seem to rate Spence, so potentially there's an issue there. But actually right wing is the biggest issue I've got. We've got players that can play there, but we only have Decky, who is a natural right winger. So we need to fix that, and we desperately need another centre back as well.
Stuart, what's your take? Have we spent the money?
The thing about that for me is that if we're talking about Levy and the way he's operating and all that kind of stuff, and him being classified as negligent and all that kind of stuff, to go out and spend money based on a signing that could have collapsed for multiple reasons seems ridiculously negligent. And I don't understand how they would have gone and done that, and I certainly don't understand how they would have gone out and said yes to that deal without having a number of signings already lined up. We might not see them for days, but you've got to have expected that some of these deals are pretty much there just to dot the I's and cross the T's, because that would be absolutely negligent if, like, we've literally just come out, sold Kane, and we're like, okay, lads, what's happening now? Because I saw some post by some random Spanish outlet, I think at Sport or something, saying that all other transfer activity was paused until the Kane deal was done. And then now all of a sudden we're going to go and get Longley. It's like, okay, if they want to riot against Man United, crack on. But they
can't get that guy. I was very much in favour of him coming in last year for the Conte system. I think he's very good on the ball. He's good ball playing centre back, great with his passing and his range. But his obviously his inadequacies come down to his physical attributes. He can't turn and he can't run backwards and he hasn't got a top speed. So if you're going to do a high line, high press system, and he can't head the ball as well. So the 4 kind of prerequisites that you need for people that do that play that system are things that he doesn't have. So and I make the same argument for people.
You've got to wonder he's a professional footballer.
Well, yeah, exactly. You'd think that would be like kind of for the bare basics of professionalism, but not for everyone. But I make the same argument.
You got to play for Barcelona and a pretty high level. So
yeah, but I think his pace has deserted him a little bit. I don't know if he used to be faster. He's a good. I'm not criticizing the guy. I think he was our best centre back last year, by the way. I just don't think he fits this particular system.
No,
and we're linking up other players like Gleis and Bremer, who I'd make the exact same argument for. Brilliant player for a specific system.
Yeah,
not the right guy for Tottenham's current needs.
The other quick thing I just wanted to mention, Caller, was where's this other 50 million gone that apparently we hadn't spent yet?
Gone.
Where's that gone?
No, it's gone, isn't it?
No,
it hasn't been taken.
It hasn't been drawn down. That's the bottom line. So they don't look like they're taking it, because I think it had a year expiry on it.
They actually extended it, though. I think in the January report or the February financial results, in the communication afterwards through the PR woman Donna Maria Cullen, she said that there is an intention to take the 50 million, and they have extended the deadline by which it can be taken to the 2023-24 season. So
there you go. So
I was expecting it to be done by now, but it hasn't been.
But it hasn't been drawn down. So in theory, that money is still there to be used.
Yeah.
I mean, look, Spurs should have plenty of money for players. Let's be really honest about it. With 100 million from Harry, yes, they've had to front up 180 million euros, so 150 million quid. And the Decky and Porro thing, I kind of agree with you, JP. They've got to be in the accounting window somewhere. So if they're in this season, it's still a cost this season. But fundamentally, we should have the money to go out and buy. I mean, I was expecting us to sign another centre back whether Kane stayed or go. To be honest,
well, that's what's been talked about. That all these signings we've been linked to, everyone has always said this isn't connected to the Harry Kane deal.
Well, you've got Højbjerg on the way out as well, haven't you, potentially, for 20 to 30 mil. So, and I think Lloris is going to be off the books. That's a big salary. So there's lots. I mean, as he said it today in his presser, Ange, there's so many players to clear out. That's fundamentally, we've got about a 34-man squad or something ridiculous. So
it's all that too much for me, because I'm going to watch Ange's presser before I go to bed. So it makes me feel all cuddly and warm.
Good. Warm, yeah.
You feel like his words, they don't seep in through your ears and soak into your soul. They walk from the ground up.
Yeah,
you just feel like
blanket
picked up.
When are you going to get those JP's official Ange Postecoglou fans?
Yeah, no, I'm working on them. Yeah,
hoodies made.
We'll get them out.
We need some Ange merch, definitely.
Yeah,
I called it first, Or
I'm just going to get the date.
Guys,
February 2023.
Sorry, do you guys feel like some of the preseason performances from players that we, as a fan base, had probably assumed were out of the door, have impressed to the point that have changed plans with regards Perisic, and Lo Celso, I think, are the most obvious two, but Reguilon as well. I mean,
think from the board side, I think they probably had a list that they thought were ready to go. And I think that's why Ange took everyone out on the tour, right? So he could have a proper look at everyone. He wasn't going to dismiss anyone. He wasn't going to do a Conte and just bump a load of people and leave them at home. And in a way, it's paying off because Lo Celso seems hungry and he's been playing well. And I think he can get a run in the team. I think he can do well. He seems like he's taken on a bit more responsibility because he's looking like he's going to be a bit of a mentor to Veliz from what we've heard.
Yep.
And Perisic is Perisic. If you play him more further up the pitch, his delivery is fantastic. So
I just wonder whether his salary, though, is a bit of a I think that maybe Levy was probably looking at that with it from the financial side, thinking if we can strike a deal here where we don't have to tear up his contract and pay him out, if we can release him and maybe give him a couple of million as a sort of golden goodbye rather than letting him stay. But that he's on 180 grand a week. Yeah. So getting Lloris off the books is important. Getting Harry Kane helps a little bit and stuff. But Perisic's salary,
getting off the books, that's a hell of a salary to get off.
Yeah. So all these things form part of the overall equation, don't they? But fundamentally, we should be able to go out and sign a couple of players. Which for my money, we need to sign a forward, an experienced backup forward for Richarlison and Son, because I think between the two of them we'll work out which one is going to play central. I would imagine it's Richarlison, but you're going to want a better backup than Veliz, aren't you? I would imagine. But then you lose him on his impact on the left. So I do get that, but I think Son's best position through his career has always been a left-sided forward, and there's a reason for that. Like,
I think Son's most impactful periods, though, are when Harry's not been in the team and Son's been the one who's stepped up.
No, I wouldn't say that.
I think he's done well. I agree with JP there. When Kane's been injured or he's been out for a long period of time, every single time Son has stepped up, and I do think I mentioned this on the show I've mentioned it earlier on. Now that Kane's gone, people like Son have the opportunity to be the star of the club. He's a star of the club in certain parts of the world, but he can now become the true face of the club. And I'm not being funny, he's plastered all over the website now. So that's pretty much where things are going.
I'd rather him play through the middle, though. I feel like out on the left, he was brilliant in a counter-attacking system out on the left because you had options to put the ball over the top, let him use his pace. I think he gets a little bit predictable when he's playing in front of people. And he tries to cut in, do that one touch right foot thing. If you're going to play him anywhere, I'd actually say that if you're going to play him on the wide, I would like to see him maybe come out onto the right-hand side a little bit more and see if he can be a little bit dangerous on that side. But I personally think that I would like to see him through the middle in the 9 and give someone like Perisic a bit more responsibility on the left.
Yeah. Do you think it's going to be a bit of a case of, because they had a bit of a system when Kane was in the middle, and now obviously Kane isn't going to be in the middle, that it's going to be a bit of a case of experimentation? We might start with Rishi against Brentford, see how that goes. They might switch in the game. They'll be quite fluid anyway.
That's perfect, though. That's what you want, right? Ange Postecoglou said when he was at Brisbane, when he was accused of being a one-trick pony, he kept saying, "I'm not a one-trick pony. My team's set up the same way, but we have different players that have different characteristics to play in different positions. So if you play player X or player Y on the right, on player X or Y on the left, any particular 11 looks and plays and feels entirely different depending on the personnel that we select." So that unpredictability and the ability, the frequency of changing things up and having options up in the midfield and up top, I think will make us very difficult to prepare against. So I take your point, Stu, and I agree.
We saw that in pre-season as well, when everyone was saying that second half team looks better than the first half team because Richie was giving us a different dynamic when he was playing through the middle. When we played Shakhtar, we were really heavily dominant, crossing the ball in because we had Harry there who was going to nod them. But when we were playing with Richie in the middle, there was a lot of cutbacks going on. You had Perisic and Solomon kind of taking people to the line rather than Decky and Son cutting in. So you're right. Like, we've got different profiles.
Son can't
of
head
players.
a ball for Toffee.
He can't head a ball, no.
Yeah.
Which is weird for our 6-foot winger.
You've got, so if you're rotating within the game between,
if you've got Perisic provided ammunition, you need Richarlison. And I don't think in my head, like, I hear your points, and I think Son can do a decent job through the middle. but I think Richarlison was almost bought a year ago with this in mind, to be honest. And I think this, there's a lot on him. This is kind of his chance to go and be the main man. Now, look, I'm not stupid. His best goal return is in the Premier League's 16 goals. Is poor, right? It's not the best.
That was once, right? He usually scores 9 or 10.
Yeah, but he normally plays out on the left, not as a number 9, apart from when he plays for Brazil, and he plays bloody well there. So I think you do have to take a little bit of this into account. Everyone is writing him off, and I think that's okay because people sometimes thrive better when they are written off. And
the system will suit him far better. And also the fact that he's happy to play the sacrificial lamb and run to the byline allows people like Maddison to benefit from the kick from the pullbacks as well. There'll be more space. So I think there's lots of options.
It's a great point because the system...
Go on, Chip.
I was just going to say, the system doesn't rely on a goal-scoring number 9. Like, the number 9 in the system is, just making sure you're leading our press. And Richarlison can lead the press. Son can lead the press. Dane Scarlett can lead the press. We're not going to struggle to score goals, but whoever we bring in, we're not going to bring in a 30-goal striker to replace Kane, but we don't need to. We just need to pick up 30 goals somewhere else in the team, and we'll definitely do that by the way we've changed the system of play.
Yeah. I mean, that's pretty much what I was going to say, to be honest. You took the words out of my mouth. I think Richarlison's game is pressing, isn't it? Richarlison's game is a pressing forward. And this suits him. This system suits him far better than Kane. That's not to say Kane would have been rubbish in this system, because Kane would be brilliant in any system you play in the world. He is irreplaceable. However, it does suit a player like Richarlison, and I think that's the reason why you'll see him lead the line at Brentford. We just need him to score a couple of goals, and I think he'll get some confidence, because I think he's very much a confidence kind of player. And I think,
all these guys now, we just need to get, honestly, we can't turn toxic before the season's even started or in the first few games, because what's going to happen off the back of that? We just need to get behind the team and just sort of build some positivity around the team, because just everyone going, Kane's left, Levy out, and all this sort of stuff isn't going to do anything positive at all. And thankfully, the best thing that's happened to this club in this particular period of time is Levy's lucked out and recruited Ange, because I don't know many other managers that would react and deal with someone like Kane leaving like Ange. Everyone else would have had a meltdown. Everyone else would have demanded the hell of it.
The last two managers certainly would, Jose and
Poch would have.
Enrique would have happened. Nagelsmann, it would have happened. That's probably why these guys didn't come, because they knew that this was going to happen, or they'd been given an inkling that it was going to happen. But and I've seen the little snippets of today, and the guy just exudes calm, and we all need that right now, because we haven't even started yet. So we can't just all say the season's written off. It's going to be awful. We're never going to score the 30 goals that Kane scored. We don't know anything yet.
No, we don't. We don't know how the side's going to play out. Look, I'm still optimistic. I'm just gutted, as I'm sure we all are. It's like a gut punch, and it's like your girlfriend leaving you after a few years. It's like someone dying almost. It is the end of an era. He's been at the club 19 years. I mean, I jokingly threw my my signed Kane picture that I've got on the wall in the office at work in the bin. Took a picture of it, stuck it on Twitter, and you should see some of the responses. I think people are taking things far too seriously. But I may well give that picture away in a competition, because I don't want it on my wall at work anymore.
You have to go back to the start of the window, and we all said, probably it's the right thing to sell him if you get the money. It's just because the roller coaster that we've been on the last week that we're all now like, well, we've sold him. What are we going to do? And the reality of it sinking in. But at the end of the day, I think this means we've got one rebuild, not two. So let's just get underway with it.
We're not talking. The press aren't trying to constantly sell our best player all the time. We're not going to be talking about if Kane.
We're going to write ourselves now as well. Right? Anyone that was a neutral fan or a non-Tottenham fan that still were talking about Tottenham top 6, we're going to be out of the equation. There's not going to be Tottenham aren't going to appear in anyone's top 6 for a long time, and that's to me a beautiful thing. Write ourselves. Take the pressure off Ange. There's no one there to bang in 40 goals to make him look better than he is. Let's see what we can do together with young, hungry 22, 23-year-olds coming through, a couple of older, steady heads that can kind of bring the boys together, in those times when you need them. But I want to get back to those days. I remember the Harry Redknapp days, the Martin Yole days, when we had those young players. We were signing players, taking risks on the likes of Gareth Bale, taking risks on the likes of Luka Modric, and look how that turned out. And it was the start. Those days were the catalyst, the embers that exploded for me, and were the kind of the launch ramp of getting us to where we were in 2019. And I think that this generation now could be the start of that second wind, and we can go again. So I think there's reason to be optimistic and excited, if anything.
Well, that squad, obviously, we've got a hell of a lot of players that we need to ship out, because otherwise, I don't know what we're going to do with them. But when you look at the squad that you're probably going to see is the core squad for the season, it's pretty young. It's a good young squad there now. So that's what we want. Like you said, Sean, we've got a lot of young talent that might be a bit raw now, but give him a bit of time, like likes of Udogie and people like that. I mean, that guy's going to be spectacular, I think.
Premier League's not ready for Udogie. He's something else.
He's going to be awesome.
Massive.
Yeah.
He's massive, isn't he? We were sat in the tunnel club.
We're in the tunnel club.
Recently. Oh, we were in the tunnel club. And honestly, he walked past. The guy's a man mountain. He's enormous. He's about as tall as he is wide. He's massive.
Is he 19, 20?
19, yeah.
19, yeah.
When was the last time you saw a 19-year-old come in from another league and you've just gone, oh, he's like tailor-made?
Wayne Rooney.
I think, listen, to be honest, though, he's still, to be honest, I don't want to cast any negativity or any concerns, but just for what it's worth, I haven't seen him handle a defensive issue yet. I make the same argument for Emerson Royale. I make the same argument with in this preseason hasn't really tested us. Barcelona was the best, but those guys weren't really there for that game.
I saw him play about 6 times in Udinese last season, and he can do it. Obviously, the Premier League's a whole different.
Of course, yeah.
I do get what you mean, Sean. In terms,
I feel like the jury's out, or the jury hasn't even been sent out yet, because we haven't. There's nothing to judge him on. Yeah. But the few times that I have seen the ball get knocked into him, I think it was like the Sailors' first goal when Ben Davies stepped up unnecessarily, got all out of position, and then the ball went to the right. That guy, Destiny was probably 2 meters. He was tracking back, but was far too far away from the guy. First instance, I'm not judging the guy. I'm not raising any alarm bells, but just my observation was, if that's a Premier League player, if that's Mbeumo or someone like that,
goal
on Saturday or Sunday, you're going to get punished, right? So he's going to have to learn fast how to get touch tight to some of these guys when they're dribbling.
No, agreed.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think left back and right back are a concern. But let's just talk briefly forwards then. Of who we've been linked with, and I'll stick with you, Sean, because I know I've got limited time with you tonight. Who tickles your fancy the most? Who do you want to see us spend money on? Now, personally, if I can just put this out there, I'm going Ivan Toney, and I'm going big. Whatever it costs, get him in.
Look, I do like Ivan. I think he's as close to a Harry Kane replacement, but I think he would cost a lot of money. I don't know. Brentford messed us around with the Raya deal, and then really kind of put the middle finger up to us a little bit with the way that they then dealt with Arsenal. So I've got a bit of a sour sort of taste in my mouth around that guy Matthew Blenheim, who owns Brentford. I don't know if he's going to fit the system. He's a target man more. I mean, he's a very talented footballer, but if you were to describe him as any particular style of front man, you'd say he was probably a target man. And I don't think, you're going to want, Ange is not going to want us to be banging the ball up towards the target man. He gets annoyed by that sort of football. So I don't know if he's the best fit. For me, I personally think if you were going to spend big money on a player to fit the 9, I think the best fit for what we would like to see is someone like Dusan Vlahovic. I still don't think necessarily we should be doing that, though. I personally think that we only need to spend 30% of that money on a forward and go and put the rest elsewhere, like we've spoken about ad nauseum, at the back or on the right or the left. To me, I really like the look of this gift Orban. I think he looks like every time I see more and more highlights from him, I used to think he was just a bit of a powerhouse runner with good creativity and a good finishing record. And then when you looked into the stats, you realize, oh, he's got an XG of like 10 or 12 last year, but scored 24 goals. Well, he must finish his dinner every single time, unless there's a series of events where the goalkeepers have made howlers, which is where you'll get catching up the difference. I've actually looked into it more and more, and I think he's far more than just a good finisher who looks a little bit and plays a little bit like Steven Bergwijn merged with Adama Traore. I actually think he is really intelligent. He's always doing that kind of look left, look right, looking for space. Some of his touches are very interesting, the way he's anticipating what's going to come next. I think he is the real deal, really do. And I would like Tottenham to take a punt on him. Outside of him, if we're looking at lower places, I think I don't know if he's even found a home yet. I know he was maybe looking at moving somewhere else, but El Yawahi for Montpellier, he's got a little bit of a sort of checkered past with some behavior with I won't get into it, but if you look
Flasher.
Something really strange. But I don't know look, if that's something we need to worry about. But as another out and out finisher, someone with incredible athleticism, someone with a finishing record that is extraordinary for the chances that was presented to him, I'd like him as well. I want Tottenham, if I'm entirely honest, if you're not going to go big and spend all that money on someone to replace Harry Kane, then go a little bit more junior, take a bit of a risk. And for me, Orban would be my standout. I think he's excellent.
Yeah.
Stuart?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there's not really much that I can add to what Sean's saying, really, in terms of where I think we should do it. I think we don't really need to spend big in our attack, because I do think we've got enough options. I think, barring some kind of mental injury crisis, I think we're covered there with lots of different players. I've been really impressed with Solomon. I think Solomon can add a lot of different elements to our attack when he gets more game time. And we just need, we do need to rebuild the defence, because I just think whether we're getting some younger guys in who've got talent that are here to definitely just sort of sit behind Van der Ven or Romero, like Schur. I know this pair Schur has been linked. Or other people, maybe a Tosin, because that deal's not materialised yet to Monaco. So maybe that's still something that's on the cards. But I definitely think that's a priority. And then obviously if Højbjerg leaves, I do think we might need another midfielder as well.
JP?
You said it before, but you know who would have been wicked in an Ange system? Steven freaking Bergwijn. I reckon would have been one of the most frustrating things. You can look at players that Conte and Mourinho just didn't rate, and like
he would have
forced out of this squad, and they would have worked well. Like Delhi would have been good in an Ange
horses
system.
for courses, isn't it, JP?
Yeah, and like we write off players so quickly. Like if you believe that we still need another striker, I don't really, because we've all said Richie, Sonny, Valise, Dane Scarlett. We're talking about your fourth and fifth choice options there, so that's totally fine. I'm happy with the depth we've got. We might need better quality. Let's wait and see. But I don't think you do that now. I think you give those players the opportunity to earn their spot. We spent big money on Richarlison. You have to give him the opportunity to play his preferred position. But if where we'd spend the money is down back, and I'd get in another winger so that Sonny. Because Sonny does need to be if you're not buying a striker, Sonny is your backup striker. So you need another winger.
Well, on that wing, you've got Sonny, who's 31. You've got Perisic, who's 33. I can't remember.
Mm-hmm.
So but I mean, we do need some more youth coming in, or younger players on that side. Yeah. So
I'd say go all out for like.
Because we've got Scarlett, and then we've obviously got some of those other youngsters that are coming through as well. In the academy, I wouldn't mind seeing some of those a little bit.
Yeah, the problem with the players, not the problem with, but I like it. But the issue we've got with all the players we've been linked to is they're kind of that 20-year-old, 22-year-old type of striker. And if I'm promising, like we got Dane Scarlett is the one I'm thinking of at the moment, who looks like he's going to be a player. You have to create a pathway.
He was given a lot of space, too much space. But Christ, what a finish!
The composure to finish it, yeah. If he sees himself suddenly. Yeah, if he sees himself as suddenly the fifth choice striker, though, and you're 19 years old, you're going, well, the ones ahead of me aren't aging out of this team. So all of a sudden he's looking for an out as well. So I don't think we need to desperately do something there unless we determine that we don't have the quality. So yeah, if I'm going to spend big in the forward line, it'd be on a Matoma, but we need to look at someone on the right, I think. So I don't have any names for you. Gift Orban looks good though.
Yeah, I just think that he's completely untested at this level, and people are getting very excited about a player that they've not really seen very much.
He also looks a lot like, if you look at Dane's academy games, and again, we're not comparing. Yeah, very similar profile of striker. So I'd kind of just take the punt on Dane and fast track him.
Yeah. Whoever's got WhatsApp, John's.
Yeah, I've just muted it. Sorry.
I think it might be mine as well. So we'll find out.
We'll find out. Yeah, absolutely. So look, and then defensively, do you think we need? Would you be balls out for Tapsoba now? Bearing in mind, I think they're quoting like 60, 70 million.
Where's he going to play? I don't understand that the whole we've got to get Tapsoba because he at the moment he's going to start behind Romero and VDV, and he ain't going to come.
No, he starts. He starts ahead of VDV.
Yeah. He starts.
So you think he's going to start ahead of Van Ven?
Well, I personally don't think. I don't think we should. I think we should look in a different direction. There's a couple of players. I don't know if one of them will come. I'm pretty sure we could convince the other one that can play kind of hybrid, can be that very balanced right back, and that also can come in and play a centre back. So you're going to get minutes when one of those two players are going to be out injured or suspended. And for me, Benjamin Pavard from Munich, I think is someone that ticks all the boxes. He used to be a right back. Then under Nagelsmann,
it's part of the deal, right? I
don't know why it wasn't part of the deal. Maybe he just didn't want to come to Tottenham. I can appreciate why, but I think he's a perfect fit. But another player who I think actually I've been looking at recently, who I think can do both of those roles, but also could even, I think, has got the skill set to be a DM, a 6 as well, is Geert Truida. I don't know if you've heard of him from Holland. He's a Dutch international, currently plays for Feyenoord. Absolutely phenomenal player on the ball, like really good. Like he looks like Dembele coming out of the back. Like his dribbling is sensational, but he's really strong in the air. He's a good, strong tackler. He can play on the right back. He's played right-sided centre back. He's even played left-sided centre back, and does that 6. So he's an absolute utility beast. And like I sort of just kept an eye on him last year as he was growing. He's young as well, very talented. I don't think he would cost too much money, about 25 million quid.
Wow,
I think that's
impressive.
His stats are great. His stats are, I mean, I haven't even looked at his stats, but just, if you look at his, the seeing eye test for me, some of his highlight reels and even his low light reels aren't really the mistakes that you would you wince about. They're things that happen, but some of the stuff where you can do with the ball at his feet, he can get the ball out of trouble. He's so calm and reassuring presence at the back. And he's, breaking into the Dutch team quite early. So for me, I just think that is a player that if we're looking for someone who can come in and always going to, you could use him where you need him, and he's adaptable. I think that's a player that we could be looking, or we should be looking at.
Yeah, that's a good.
Do you reckon there's any chance? And I'm prefacing this because there is 0 chance that Bayern Munich want to see Daniel Levy's face ever again. So there's no chance of going in for anyone from Munich.
Yeah. I think Pavard is like, for me, just a dream world thing. I'm pretty sure he wouldn't want to come to Tottenham and be part of the early stages of a rebuild, but. He does fit the criteria of what we need, So,
I am concerned that the fans are going to riot if we don't get Tapsoba, but I don't think it's a deal that can be done. I think like we've seen from the Van de Ven deal that like everyone's like, it's 25, 30 mil, just do it. Just pay the money.
Like 60, 70 million.
I think it'd be more like 80. So you're spending almost all of the Kane money on one player that,
Isn't this where we've come unstuck before, though? Isn't this where we are small-time Charlies a little bit? Like, we never pushed the boat out to get the player that's really going to make the difference to the team.
There's pushing
We're
the
trying
boat
to
out.
play. No, hang on. We're playing Moneyball, right? That's Spurs' game right now. With find the next youngster, do this. Chelsea aren't messing around with that. Newcastle aren't messing around with that. Man United aren't messing around with that. Liverpool aren't. Well, Brighton, yeah, but they lose half the team every year, Stuart. If you want to win things, Brighton haven't won anything. They got into the Europa League, right? Let's set our sights a bit higher than Brighton. I'm agitating for a point, really. we should be blowing money on the player that's going to make the biggest difference to the team.
The problem is we don't need one player. We're not.
Well, but yeah, okay.
We're not Liverpool, and we just needed Van Dijk, and that was it.
One player. Bayern Munich have gone out and got one player who's going to make a massive difference to the team, right? They haven't gone, I know, let's buy a couple of 20 to 30 million pound strikers who might be all right or might not be.
But every time we've gone big in the recent past, we've ended up getting it wrong.
But I also don't think a cash value equates to that, to that, response.
It doesn't necessarily, but you're telling me that the cash value, you're telling me Harry Kane's going to be bad value for money.
If Ange said Tapsoba,
I think he will be
the player that I need, you go get him. But if there's other players out there that are less money, but they're exactly also the profile that Ange wants, then you get him what he wants. Because like the way he's talked about Van der Ven is, he said he was tracking him at Celtic and all this kind of stuff. He's obviously a player that Ange has absolutely identified and he wanted. So whoever else that is on Ange's list, go get him.
And that's it. Is like I think we have gone out and got the player that Ange wanted, and that was Van der Ven, who just happened to be the cheaper of the two. So now we're looking at it, there's 80 million on the other one who is a better player, but also kind of our backup. Something we need to do.
Just quickly though, you said about Harry Kane caller, whether he's value for money for Munich. The only way he's value for money is if Munich win the Champions League. Because everything else that Munich are going to win, they would have won without him anyway. And I don't think Harry Kane is the big enough difference. He's a massive, obviously, he's a gap closer. But I just think Manchester City and Real Madrid are that far ahead of Bayern Munich.
I don't think Madrid are. I agree with City. They're on a different planet. They're 3-0 up, by the way.
If Kane's fit for a final or turns up in a final, that would be a first.
The other thing is, Stuart, like I empathise with Kane because he's not played with as good of players around him as he will do at Munich. So let's be honest, Pochettino was squeezing pips out of that side. Like he was getting more out of those players than he should have been by rights at that moment in time. Yeah. So at Bayern, they've got a much better standard of player. All I'm saying is there a case to be made that we should be identifying the players that are almost sure things, even if they cost an extra 20 million, and going for like one or two of those, so 60, 70 million pound players, really kick on.
We should be able to. We're nowhere near the FFP boundary.
I just don't think Tapsoba is. I don't think he's worth 70 million, and I don't think he's the person that we absolutely need for the team to spend that amount of money. I think you could get cheaper and just as good player.
If you back Van der Ven to be the player we hope he is, then no, it's not Tapsoba. It's the question of, well, we have to wait and see if if Van der Ven is the player that we hope he's going to be, because we ain't seen him.
Well, if you're going to, who is the real needle mover in the back? For me, it's probably Aymeric Laporte. I think he's the guy who comes in and absolutely steps up, offers the leadership.
100%.
And he's going to be
get him.
That's a much cheaper deal
he's
to
going
do.
Cost less than Tapsoba. You just have to convince him to come and convince City.
This is one or Ivan Toney. This is someone who has banged in Premier League goals routinely. If you sign Laporte and Toney, there you go. There's two difference makers for me. They move the needle on where we're at. And to me, I suppose my frustration as a Spurs fan is we never do that. We don't have that big club mentality. We have a Moneyball mentality lately. A couple of years ago, we were dabbling with trying to buy, superstar midfielder Tonga and Bella Van der Sar. So I completely take your point, Sean. We have spent so badly when we've gone big, even with Charles,
and then can't move them as well, which is the other part, the other trap that you get into. Teams like Chelsea,
he's terrified to do it again.
100%. Teams like Chelsea go out there and buy 15 players over the last 12 months, all of whom that are eminently sellable, right? If it doesn't work out, players like who was the guy they sold? Forget it.
The centre back.
The centre back that went to Saudi Arabia.
Koulibaly.
Thank you. Yeah, players. You spend 30 million on him, Like he's just an example of a player that is sellable. There's always going to be a club that wants him. If it wasn't Saudi Arabia, it would have been someone in Italy. When Tottenham are trying to sell players like Ndombele
for 8 million.
Yeah, or like Sanchez, Eric Dyer. Like there's just not that secondary market. The clubs that do have the money, because a lot of clubs in Europe are broke. So the clubs that do have the money to spend are usually the top tier clubs who only want the top tier players. So when Tottenham are trying to sell second tier players into second tier markets, there's just not the appetite for it. And that's another kind of consequence of just being missing the wood for the trees, I guess, on Daniel Levy's shoulders over the previous 5 years.
This is the result. The situation with the squad now is the result of 5 years of absolute mismanagement of the squad. Yeah, totally. It's shocking how bad it is.
Yeah. No, Levy's completely screwed it. And, I'm not the biggest, shouting from the rooftops, Levy out kind of guy, but it's made a complete mess of it last few years. 100%.
The recruitment team.
And longer than that, by the way.
As well. It's not just Levy. It's all of them.
Yeah. Did anyone see Ange's press conference today?
No spoilers.
I'm going to give you one spoiler, Stu, I'm afraid, because I need to talk about this. So I loved. You won't have seen it either, JP. So just me and John will have this conversation. But he was asked, "Have you decided your captain yet?" And he went, "Yeah, I have, and I'm not telling you." Basically, you'll find out tomorrow, mate.
When I was bigging this man up, I said, it's not what he's done, it's who he is. It's who he is, isn't he? He's just, he's so good.
JP, I don't know if because you're Australian, I'm guessing you're Australian. I'm sure, don't know if you've followed this guy for longer, but for me, whilst I love what he says, I've got to be honest, his demeanor in press conferences is a little bit miserable. He comes across to me I love every word he comes out of his mouth I can get behind, but the way he says it, it feels like it's an effort, and he has a lot of disdain for people that are asking him questions, whether it's the guy on Spurs play, he's almost rolling his eyes at the question, or whether it's these guys that are in the journalist suite, at Tottenham Hotspur away. I never feel like he wants to be there. He says great things, but the way he says it makes me feel like it's a real nasty experience for him, that something he doesn't enjoy doing. I don't know if that comes across to you guys.
I think it's threefold. Partly it's him being Australian and that natural sarcastic kind of undertones that we have. And then one part is he doesn't suffer fools. And a lot of the questions he gets asked, it's like, come on.
Yeah. Welcome to the British media.
This is your job. Okay. All right.
Ask me a good question. And I'm
do your job well.
Just and then JP was banging the Ange drum before he was even linked with the job.
Yeah. So really,
this guy is the founding father of the Australian Ange Postecoglou fan club.
So Ange used to manage the team I support over here as well, and I've seen a lot of him, but he has a passionate disdain for lazy journalism.
Fair enough.
And a little part of it is just his general demeanor. He doesn't want to be the face of anything. He's happy to go and do it, and he'll always defend the club, and he'll put himself in the way of the media and the players to make sure that he protects his team. But he doesn't want it to be about him. He wants it to be about the club, because if it's about individuals, then individuals come and go, and he knows that he's just a part of a history of your involvement with an institution, not, the thing that people are going to follow around. So all of that kind of makes up the general demeanor you see. It's not I don't want to be here. It's just, I'm
there's
dealing
certainly
with
no
idiots.
tall poppy syndrome with him, is there?
Nah,
ground, very much
not at all. Yeah.
One of the best quotes that's come out of the evening side of the press conference. He said, "In terms of the supporters, I've said all along they've got the right to feel the way they want to. If there's a negativity amongst them, it's up to us to turn it around. It's not up to them." Boom.
Yeah.
And with that quote, I've wiped Cooler off the.
I've also got to be wiped off the screen, guys. I've got to jump. I do apologise. It's been wonderful to spend the last hour with you guys. I'll do it again soon.
Sean. Yeah, we've got HG tagging in any minute, so there's plenty.
Here we go.
Thanks, Sean. But I just want to get that we've had a super chat. Sorry, I've got one of these bloody newfangled MacBook Pro things, and if you accidentally swipe the touchpad, the screen just disappears. So I wasn't leaving you. Be honest, who'd heard of Ndebele before Tottenham?
True.
I had. He was one of the up-and-coming talents in Europe, but I take the point. He wasn't an established player. And I suppose that goes back to the point I was making. We want established players, not prospects. Or that's what I want. That's how I want to see transfer business.
I think Maddison's the first deal we've done in a long time where we've, I know Leicester just got relegated, but in all sort of senses, Maddison is a Premier League player that we've taken from another Premier League team and paid a semi-decent fee for it. So how often can we say that that's actually happened? And we're seeing it happen all the time amongst our rivals. They're bloody all selling to each other, which is, that Brentford, the riot Arsenal thing is just, I can't get my head around that. But, that's what we need to be doing more of, because there's plenty of players that are in squads that aren't getting games. Laporte is the perfect example. If we can persuade Laporte to come, then that is a sign of intent, because he's 28.
I think with all of this is we're always looking for established players, but there's players who aren't playing games in clubs, not because they're bad players, but because they don't fit the system or the manager doesn't fancy them. And we've seen that with Lo Celso. We were all get him out because he doesn't play, so clearly there's something wrong with him. It's just that particular manager, that particular system, he wasn't playing in. You bring him into another system, he looks like a world beater again.
We've got HG in it with us. It's only right that I go over to HG and say, HG, good evening, Vienna. I guess you've been watching the Premier League. And
I have. It's been exciting to watch. Burnley have a bunch of no names, but actually didn't do that badly first half anyway.
Yeah.
But Man City have a striker. Are we talking about how Spurs don't have a striker? No. Where were we? What were you discussing?
Well, as you're in the show now, what I want from you is, just while I go and refill my rather beautiful glass, a little bit of a segue about your views on Kane going, because everyone else has had the opportunity to pay tribute, to eulogise Kane, and say how they feel about him going. But you have not, and I would not want to deprive you of that. And then, if I'm still not back, I was just asking the question about captain. I was saying what Ange said in his press conference about you'll find out tomorrow. And we're going to have a little discussion about who do you think will be captain.
All right. Well, I won't talk about captain. But yeah, look, Kane, I'm probably going to copy what other people have said. Maybe I won't. Look, I feel, I don't really remember what I said to YouTube's, but I feel as if I've said for quite a while that I thought Kane was going to go. So I'm not surprised. Do I hate Kane for going? No, because I think that Bayern Munich is a pretty good move for him. I understand that many people think that it's a farmers' league. I watch the Bundesliga. I don't really think that. I do feel as if Bayern will walk the title this year because Dortmund have got weaker and Bayern have got stronger. But for Harry Kane, it felt like that if Bayern were interested and they were willing to pay the money that Spurs wanted, then it was always going to happen. And that to me is the surprising thing, that Bayern were actually willing to pay what Daniel Levy wanted.
They were the only team in for him as well, which was even more surprising.
Sorry, what was that?
That they were the only team in for him.
Yeah, certainly, I think Daniel Levy would have said within the Premier League, it's not happening. I think he's learned. He did it with Modric, 10 years ago? He wasn't going to sell him to Chelsea, but he did sell him to Real Madrid for less money. So I think Daniel Levy sees that as being something he doesn't want to do. Look, I know he did it with Kyle Walker, but you would expect that he regrets that as well. So, if you're looking abroad, Real Madrid are saving their pennies for Mbappe or Haaland or whoever they want next year. They bought Bellingham as it was for 100 million euros. Barcelona don't really have the money because they used all their levers last summer to create the team that won them the league, and it worked for them. And PSG, that is PSG a farmers' league.
And PSG were in for him. He just didn't want to go there.
No. And I think Bayern would be the smarter decision. I don't know. It's a weird one. I am not annoyed that he left. I am not upset that he left. I am still, sadly, or hopefully, excited about Sunday and what Spurs are going to do next. I'm a Spurs fan more than I am a Harry Kane fan. So that's probably my viewpoint on all of this. But yeah, I know we had a chat earlier in our little WhatsApp group about the players that had really left us feeling gutted when they left. And the only one I could think of for me was Van der Vaart. It's not Kane. Van der Vaart felt like unfinished business.
Yeah.
With Kane, after 10 years, I don't think we can really say that. Like, he gave us everything he had. He was amazing for us. He's a fantastic, world-class, incredible striker. But it seems as if it's a good move for everyone, if I'm honest.
Yeah. What's your take on how the money should or will be spent?
Well, if we're basing it on what's happened in previous summers, right? We've spent about 100 million plus for the last 2 or 3 years. So, given our revenue should be a bit higher because we had Champions League last season. Like, I don't know if we spend that in advance or whatever, but I would think about 100 million outgoings based on the revenue should be expected every summer. If we've spent, 130 if you include Porro and Kulusevski, which who knows when you do that, but that we should have money to spend now that Kane is gone, and there are still pretty obvious weaknesses. So Spurs will go out, and we may have to overpay a little bit now, but I really am just interested to see where Spurs are going to spend their money, because we see these links with Easy at Crystal Palace. And maybe a central defender from somewhere. I mean, maybe Tosin is going to be that guy now. I don't know. But yeah, I do think that we're going to spend. I think that even though we've got 3 weeks left, we're going to be buying 2-3 players who a lot of us will see as certainly very good squad players, if not destined to play the first game of the season or the first game that they're involved. And then after that, it's really who we can let go. I don't know if we'll get much money for the players that Ange won't want, but a lot of them will be, like with Rodon, they'll be out on loan.
Yeah.
We can rightly criticise how Levy and Enix spend money in the past, but there's a few comments that have been flying around like, oh, the 100 million's just Enix profit. They're just going to pocket that. If we look at the history, Enix have never pocketed money. They don't take money out of the club. They make sure they've got cash reserves in the club, but they're not taking it out for themselves. So I think we will see this money spent. There's no evidence that we won't spend it. There is also no evidence that we will spend it well. So
there you go.
And that's the real catch.
Yeah.
But we all sit there and look at the squad and think there are holes in what Ange wants to do with the players that we've got, and whether it's injury related. But we're looking at wingers. Perisic is there, but that's not a long-term solution. We don't have really anyone down the right-hand side. A lot of us thought Porro would be used there, and he hasn't been. So it feels as if the Ange is seeing things that maybe we haven't seen. But yeah, look, certainly one centre back. Like, I understand the clamour for a replacement striker, but I'm still thinking defence more than I am anything else.
Yeah.
So if we can use some of that money and get in another quality, like a third centre back that we think, okay, this guy is good enough to start week in, week out, and may not be able to, then that's what we should be doing.
Yeah. Agreed.
Mon Capitan, who gets the band, we'll find out tomorrow, but I want your speculation now. My money's on Eric the King Dyer. He's been teasing us this week, hasn't he? Did you see his Instagram post with him posing with a captain's armband on? It can't be him, surely, can it, JP? I mean, that would be sacrilegious.
No. It's one of 3 players. It's either, you could maybe throw in a fourth, but I don't think it's likely. It's either going to be Sonny.
Sonny or Sonny?
Yeah. Sonny or Basuma, or left field shout for Romero.
I love the way you went, it's one of 3 players, and then struggled after Son.
To be honest, I kept thinking Bentancur, and I was like, oh, actually, it could be Bentancur, but that's not the name that I was thinking of. But since we haven't seen him on the pitch yet, it'll be either Basuma, Sonny, or that other bloke that I said. Romero. Mate, I'm still trying to wake up from your call. You shocked me into life this morning.
That's good. Yeah, wake up call.
I think takes the number 10.
HG, who do you want the captain's armband to go to, and who do you think it will go to? But first of all, to shout out Mother HG. It's her second birthday today, isn't it? So look, she's pointing out rubbish numbers. Only 111 people have hit the like button, 314 watching currently. So please do smash the like button. It costs you nothing. It takes a second, and it means the world to us. So please do smash that like button. HG.
Look, if everybody was fit, who do I think is best placed to lead Spurs for the next 2-3 seasons or whatever it's going to be? To me, the answer is Bentancur. I think he's just one of those players who has the street smart, is a great player, would play most games if he's fit. And I just think the languages that he has, I feel like it would be a good move. He doesn't seem to be one of those kind of bullshit leaders. He doesn't seem to be one of the quiet leaders. He just, he seems to be focused on being part of the group, and obviously he's been a very good player for Spurs. As he's not fit, it makes you wonder what Ange is thinking. Is Ange thinking long term, or is he thinking for right now? Does he want someone who is, let's say, almost a right-hand man in the squad? I mean, you know that he's got, was it Jedinak, who you imagine is going to be pretty close to the players, having been a professional not that long ago. But yeah, who has Ange taken the most to is a good question. And I can see the logic in Dyer as much as he won't play. I mean, that's the thing. But everything else about Dyer screams, yeah, like he's been at the club for a long time, but he's not committed to the club long term.
No.
So that would also surprise me. Go on.
He's out of contract next summer, isn't he, Dyer?
Yeah.
So my money's on at the moment.
Who, sorry?
Maddison.
Yeah, Maddison was Leicester captain for a while.
He's got the persona, he's got the confidence. I just think he's got that. He just has that ability to
number 10 shirt
pitch. I think the thing with Sonny, I think the shout is more about his length of service and his loyalty to the club, which I 100% agree. I'm just not sure how much he will do that on the pitch to sort of get the team going and all that kind of. Because even Kane was awful at that, driving the team, and you need someone. And I agree with HG that, if Bentancur was 100% fit and all that stuff, I think he would be a perfect captain just because of the way he plays and the way he is on the pitch and all that kind of stuff. So, but like you say, do we name him captain and then we've got a Maddison or a Son as vice captain and they take the reins until Bentancur comes back?
I think it's
Go on, JP. Sorry.
No,
go.
You go. I was going to get sidetracked. I think Bentancur is probably the most natural leader we've got in the team. I'm interested because most people seem to think that Sonny's probably up there as the options, but then have similar comments of like, oh, I don't know if he's a leader. But then the arguments we make for the other players that we think are leaders is based on them having done the role previously. Like, Maddison was Leicester captain, and even Harry, we didn't see the same kind of leadership attributes as we typically expect. But we go, oh, he's the England captain, so therefore Sonny's the South Korean captain. He's got the same, he's got everything that we would look for outside of how they behave as a person on the pitch that we give passes for other teams. But somehow South Korea isn't big enough for people to make him a captain.
Plus, I think there's a difference between, let's say, what used to be called club captain, right? As in someone who actually is, who we don't expect to play every game and is actually there to be a massive part of the leadership group. I mean, other sports seem to have that, don't they? They have leadership groups. Like in Germany, they call it a Mannschaftsrat, where there's 4 or 5 that get together. So there may be one on the pitch, but when it comes to groupthink and decisions among the players, you have a number of them there. Spurs have had that obviously before with Lloris and Kane and whoever would have been after those two if they were both.
That's gone really well, hasn't it?
I tell you, you're overlooking one man, all of you. The prodigal son, my boy, Oliver Skip.
Skip.
Superb in pre-season, natural leader.
Are you basing it on lack of hair, Caller? Is this what is going on with Skip?
He looks experienced, even though he's only 22. No, I
don't think it'll be Skippy. I think the thing is as well is I suppose the other thinking that's got to come into this is obviously that we're in a period now where there's going to be a lot of the fan base who are upset, pissed off, uncertain about what's going on after Kane's gone. So is there an element of the thinking that it's got to be someone who the whole fan base is going to get behind, which again will put
There's not
the
many
on and all that kind of stuff top of the list, because Son has been there, he's done it, he's loyal to the club, he's proper Spurs. Do we use him to sort of lead the next era?
I think we spoke about it earlier as well, but that's why I put this comment up. You kind of have to come back to every time Kane's been out of the team, Son has stood up. And so when you think about who is likely to stand up in that void, Son's proven before he'll do it. So he's a safe shout, and I think a good shout for captain, but I can also understand if it goes to one of the other players we've talked about, which I think is a good thing. It means that there's we've got a good group of people that can step up in this team, and I'm not worried about life after Harry. I am a little bit worried.
There's a lot of good options.
There's a bit of worry, but
I mean,
not too much worry.
The thing is, in this captain part, it's life after Lloris. I mean, do you know what I mean? We all,
Yeah.
like, the pundits fall into the same trap. Like, we all know that Harry Kane led by example. And of course, as professional footballers, if you are truly professional, you will think, this is what I need to do. I mean, that is great to know. But at some point, it is more than that. Like, when was the last time we really felt that Spurs were a team on the pitch? Do you know what I mean? And and Lloris has been fit for 2.5 seasons. He missed a few games, right? But otherwise, he's been there. But he's been like the team hasn't been able to really solidify itself. And I remember the one interview Lloris gave after the Zagreb loss. But outside of that, it doesn't feel like he was that vocal. Like, we've heard the interviews that Maddison gives. He gives a very good interview. He is comfortable. He is eloquent. And there may be part of Ange that says, you know what? The old has gone, right? And Son does represent that. You know, I've mentioned, I don't know if everyone else has, but this idea of a long-term fit, maybe Son's not that either. So, like, if Ange is thinking, I want someone who I expect to be at the club for 2 seasons, well, that narrows a fair few out. And that means the experienced ones, like Højbjerg, felt like a natural fit, but we all think he's going to be leaving in the next 3 weeks.
Yeah.
So it's a difficult choice, but weirdly enough, based on what I've heard Ange say, I don't think he's going to get it wrong. He's not going to do what Pochettino did and pick Kabul. Like, he will pick the right person to be his new captain. So I am excited to find out who it is, but
I think it's going to determine, the sort of the mood. I think, and it's good that hopefully we do get it tomorrow, because I think it is something that will help the fan base a bit, unless it's dire, because if it's dire, we're fucked.
So final name. I want a name for each. You just one name and not 3. JP, who's it going to be?
Son.
HG.
who do I think it's going to be? Maddison,
Correct.
based on what we've just talked.
Maddison. Stuart.
I'm going to go Maddison as well.
Siri's answering for me as well. I would say Maddison as well. Actually, I'm going to be a sheep and follow.
So JP's right. I mean, we can clip this. JP will be right.
Oh, he's right on Ange, he gets everything right.
The only other one is, like you said earlier, who's Ange sees his like right hand man. If you think about who he spent the most time around training, Basuma is not a bad shout.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Lindy, the birthday girl, says Maddison. Gav says Maddison is as likely as Son.
It just from a PR perspective, I think doing an announcement tomorrow of Maddison's shirt being number 10 and being the new captain seems very
on
It's a bit too logical for Spurs, isn't it?
It's a bit too logical, yeah.
Yeah.
I can tell you he wants to be. My snippet of information this week is that Maddison desperately wants to take penalty kicks now that Kane has gone, but Richarlison is the name that's been put forward. So there you
I
go.
don't think I've ever seen Richarlison take a penalty. Has he done penalties?
It has to be Richarlison.
Yeah,
he needs some padding in his numbers to help his confidence.
He must have taken penalties. Well, there's a lot of padding in Kane's numbers with penalties. Let's be fair.
Yeah.
But can you imagine the pressure on that first post-Kane penalty? It'll be, that'll be all any pundits talking about.
At least you won't have to worry about Kane on free kicks anymore.
Yeah. Now the big question of the day: what do I do with my Kane shirt on the wall? Do I leave it up? Do I take it down?
Burn it!
Yeah, I thought about burning it. You know,
Yeah, you leave it up. What are you? Purple and gold?
till the club is sold. Although I don't know where the gold comes from. It's clearly yellow. Brentford, we should probably talk about Brentford as this was originally the Brentford preview show.
We've got a game coming up, don't we? Yeah.
We do.
Can't wait.
It should be exciting. I am going to, by the way, you know that picture that you told me to put on Twitter, and then I've got vitriol all afternoon.
Did you really?
I got quite a bit
Escalation.
for throwing a picture in a bin. Obviously, I did pull the picture out of the bin afterwards because I'm going to give it away. And all you need to do is go over to the Cheese Room Podcast Twitter page, follow us, and stay tuned for information coming soon, because I will give away the signed Kane picture that's been adorning my office wall for the last 8 years or so. So there you go. It's
Which could go up in value when he wins the Super Cup tomorrow.
Well, look, it was a present to me, to be honest, from a person I used to know. So from a manager I used to manage. So it cost me nothing, and it might bring someone happiness. So we'll give it away. Give it away now. Brentford. Let's talk about Brentford. HG. Give me your Brentford intel. Tony's out. Who's the danger man? Help me out.
It's my nan's team. Anyway, Brentford. So look, I actually did check their team news for the weekend, and they made this big thing that Mbeumo will start, despite having come off in their last friendly. But I expect a 3-5-2. I don't think they'll be super attacking. I think that Rico Henry will be their left back. They've talked about that as well. But they've made a couple of good signings, Brentford. Nathan Collins, I think, is a decent player, and he will help them get younger and stronger. And because like Ben Mee is getting on a bit, and Pinnock is good, but probably close to 30, if not the wrong side of 30. And so Brentford, it to me, it's all about whether they go 3-5-2 like they did against us in the first half of our last game against them, where we were 1-0 up and cruising, or if they go 3-5-2 with an attacking 10 like they did in the second half and tore us apart. I would imagine, given the way that Spurs have set themselves out in pre-season, they may go a bit more defensive and try to clog up midfield a little bit. But Brentford are who Brentford are. They won't change the way they play. They haven't changed too many players. Tony being out is a massive bonus, but he's out for half the season and will miss one game against everyone. So it is what it is. But I think Sunday is more about Spurs, to be honest, than it is about Brentford.
I do think the benefit for this game is Flecken, because I've not been that impressed by Flecken from what I've seen so far. I saw him a little bit when he was at Freiburg, but he's not looked particularly great so far. So I think if he's peppered with shots, I don't think he's going to be, as good a shot stopper as Raya. So maybe that's a benefit. Like you say, if we're going to do 30 odd shots or something like that, that could be a good one in. But like you look at their back line, and surely we've got to be looking to rack up some goals. I know, notoriously we haven't been that great against Brentford recently, but
no,
we haven't been this Spurs team.
Brentford going to be the same as they were last year. They've lost a couple of key players. Haven't they? Tony Raya. Can they repeat what they've been doing? JP,
it's how they play. How they play won't change, and Thomas Frank knows what he's got. And although they've made a few changes, like I agree that Flecken is garbage. I was amazed that they signed him, to be honest. Bearing in mind that Brentford are so data run, I don't see it. I've never seen it with Flecken. He's never passed the eye test for me, regardless of the other stuff. So that's a good sign, hopefully. But Strakosha was Lazio's keeper for a while, I think for a couple of years before he ended up on Brentford's bench. So they have keepers that have experience of big league football. But if Flecken gets the nod, which you'd expect him to, then hopefully Spurs will take advantage.
Yeah. I just think the thing with Brentford and the reason we've struggled against them so much, I think, before is that we've not gone at them with enough pace in our attack, or just transitioning through the pitch, which allows them to reset really, really easily. And I think that's I don't think I can't remember a game that we've played against them, home or away, recently, and that's because we've had Mourinho and Conte in charge, where we've actually gone at them with any kind of intent. It's just almost been like, are we going to wait to just catch them out and then hit them on the break type thing? Whereas I think if we do what we've been doing recently, where we're just sort of, getting all of our players into their half and fizzing the ball around and all that kind of stuff, I think we'll wear them down, and two, it will limit what they can then do on their counter attack, in my view.
Yeah, I mean, Brentford will be dangerous from set pieces because they always are. I mean, they understand that they do have a big side.
As usual.
Yeah.
We can't
We've
handle
been
crosses,
poor defending them.
Well, let's talk about the Spurs lineup, because that's probably what the most exciting bit will be. It's very much a new look Spurs this season, new look tactics, new people. JP, how do you think we'll line up for Ange's first competitive game?
I think we'll see a pretty similar squad to the one that started Shakhtar, obviously with one pretty significant exclusion. I think we'll go. Yeah, we haven't spent an hour and 20 minutes talking about it. I think we'll go Vicario, Royale, Romero, Davies. I don't think Van der Ven will start.
He's not had 90 minutes in his legs pre-season, apparently.
No, and he has spent 4 days with the team, so I think it'll be a couple of weeks till he's starting. Doggy on the left, Basuma. I really want to see Lo Celso and Maddison, but I think it'll be Sarr and Maddison, and then Sundeki Richie.
Okay, HG.
Does that mean Richie is fit?
He is fit.
Did
you not see what he posted on his Instagram? He put,
Instagram. I'm not on Instagram.
Well, he put fake alongside the story.
Does "fake" mean anything in Brazilian, in Portuguese? Like, have people been reading it wrong?
Broken
leg. And also backed up in his presser today that he's fit, fully fit.
Okay, all right. What do I think? You want what I think he's going to do, or what I would do?
Yeah, what you think is? Well, you give me both. Just
all
give
right,
me
fine. Okay, so what I think he's going to do, is to do similar to what JP said. So Vicario in goal, Emerson Royal, Romero. I do think Van der Ven will start. I don't think you spend 40 million with Man United next week and say you have until September to get ready. No, Van der Ven will start. Udogie is the back four, and then Bissouma, Maddison, and I think. I mean, this is it. Like we've got Sarr, we've got Lo Celso, we've got Skip. I think he's going to pick Højbjerg. I know it doesn't make any sense based on the fact that he wants to go. But it's weird. It's because it's like, what is Ange going to do? Like, I feel like any other manager would say we need to stiffen up in midfield, right? Because Bissouma isn't the strongest, Maddison isn't the strongest. That third one may need to be, because Brentford will pay most likely 3 hard, fast, tall defensive midfielders.
Basuma did very well against Barcelona's first team.
Yes, I know, but the Barcelona also aren't built with 6 foot strong. I mean, Norgard and Jan Elt, and I
give you that.
Like if you are concerned about Brentford, then you might pick Højbjerg. If, and based on what Ange has done all season, you just want to attack, then you don't pick Højbjerg. But Højbjerg has played some of those games, started some of those preseason games, and so did Kane. But at what point is Ange saying, "Hey, look, I don't know what's going to happen, so I have to prepare for everything"? And until the deal with Højbjerg is really set in stone, and we're just waiting for other moves to be made, there's a chance he could play. But if I have my attacking hat on, then it's Bissouma, Maddison, and Lo Celso. I think those 3 fit. I think just the balance is there. I think Maddison is better on the right than he is on the left. I think Lo Celso will be happy to drop back if Son cuts inside, which we know he will. It just seems a better fit. And plus, if Royal is down the right, at right back, and Kulusevski is cutting in, who's going to be making those runs to create? If Maddison is the most likely to do that. So to me, that was probably the best midfield three. And then up front, I think he'll go Son, Richie, and Kulu, but I'm not sure that's the best three to go with. But yeah, I
Who
do
would you
think he'll do
go?
that.
What-
If you
what's the
base it
three?
on,
Yeah,
if
give
you
me
base it
your
on
team now. You can give me
but-
your team now.
if you base it on pre-season, Perisic should probably start. He's a better fit for what Ange wants to do. And the thing with Perisic is that, if you're chasing the game, then you'll bring him on.
Yeah.
But I don't want us to be chasing the game,
Mm.
right? And the best way for us not to be chasing the game is to start with him. And if that means pushing Son into the middle, so be it. But at some point, we have to figure out, if Ange wants to play a certain way, and our wingers are cutting in and making it difficult for Lo Celso or Maddison or whoever to do their natural game, there's a problem.
Yeah.
We don't want square pegs in round holes. So
If you look at the way,
go on. Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, if you look at the way he played at Celtic and at Yokohama, and you're trying to pick a team that best mirrors that as a style of play, then your front three becomes Perisic, Son, and Solomon.
Mm.
Or,
Yeah.
Son and Richie interchangeable, but
Yeah.
that's probably the best three we've got.
Yeah. Okay.
And Son doesn't deserve to be dropped per se, but yeah, it's the team is now number one. We don't have the best front three in the league because we don't play that way anymore. We basically have a front five if Ange gets his way. Sorry, go ahead.
That's fine, Stuart.
No, I mean, I was just thinking just then that it's difficult because of the way the pre-season's panned out. We've not, in most pre-seasons, you'll have one game, maybe two, where you're sort of muddling around, figuring things out, and then you have a consistent run of games with what you would classify as your first 11. And I think that the only game that I can think of where we've sort of really done that is against Shakhtar, and even in that game, Højbjerg played 90 minutes, I think. So it's just I don't know. Do you risk if Højbjerg is definitely up for sale? Do you risk him playing because you don't want him to pick up a serious injury or anything like that? But I do think if he's not part of the long-term vision, use the players that are part of the long-term vision, whether that is Sarr, Skip, Basuma, whoever. I am quite excited about a trio of Basuma, Maddison, and Lo Celso because I do think that Basuma and Lo Celso are good at winning the ball back. They might not be sort of proper CDMs, but I think they are very good at winning the ball, which is what we'll need. And both of them are pretty quick if we need to recover. I really do think he will take a punt on VDV as well. Whether he plays for just 60 minutes or something like that, I mean, are we going to stick Davis in against someone like Mbeumo or who's the other lad that Wissa? Because Wissa very rapid as well. So I'm not sure I'd take that punt. Or do we take Super Sanchez, who done very well against Barca, and just stick him in there for a game?
This is the thing: does
Those
Sanchez
two
now
words
become
do
the
not
bridge
belong
again?
in the same sentence.
He was a man possessed. He was actually doing tackles on time and all sorts of crazy stuff.
I was going to say, if there's one player you look at that you go, you know what, they're on the chopping block, but we might play them just to get us out of a bind in the first few games, Sanchez might be the one of the lot before Højbjerg. It's because we've got the depth in that position, but we don't have the height or speed to replace, to cover Van de Ven while he gets up to speed. So Sanchez is the one you
proved. He proved that against Shakhtar. His positioning for their goal was shocking, and that's the problem is that, and if you have Romero and VDV in there or Sanchez, you've got the height and the speed. So yeah, I don't know. And I'm quite excited that I don't know.
When was the last time we couldn't pick a Spurs 11? Where there was more than one position where you're going, it could be anyone. I genuinely can't and not from a who would you pick, but who will the manager pick?
Yeah,
it's been 3 years.
Yeah,
I will say that my first team for the United game next week would probably be actually quite different. Yeah, if
Really?
Ange goes horses for courses, which apparently he does, he rotates and he puts people in base. So, like United at home, I would be tempted to play Son probably because I think that there's it would keep Man United's defense back. I'm not sure that we will need to worry about Brentford's defense being back. They may well be back anyway, but with Son playing down the left in that game, that makes sense. And then I might think. If I don't think that Kulusevski is a good fit because he always cuts inside, the good thing about Kulusevski is that he does start on the touchline a lot. So even if he cuts inside, but I just think that if you're going to have 5 players in a line, which is kind of what Ange seems to want, whether it's runners, but there's usually an attacking 5, then you need to have width. And is Kulusevski guaranteed to give you that? Does he want to do that all the time? That's a question that I think we haven't seen enough of in the friendly games to really think, okay, he's committed to this.
Second half Barca, I think we saw it with Kulusevski, but that is all we've seen of it.
Yeah. The other interesting element of this is that most teams, especially Brentford, will be doing their sessions, their briefings, and all that kind of stuff based on Kane being there. So having Kane out of the squad all of a sudden this late in the day, we've become a total unknown because no one knows how we play without Kane because he's been part of the team for so long. So that's another interesting element of, do they feel a bit more confident now because Kane's not in the team? They might open themselves up a bit more than they normally would. I don't know. That's another question mark, is the impact of him not being there on how opposition teams view us, because the pundits think we're doomed.
Best thing ever, that.
Yeah, it is. Beware.
And we might be.
Beware.
We have to worry about ourselves, and I think for the next few weeks we're going to be saying the same thing about whoever we come up against. We're not going to be worrying about setting up based on different teams. The threat from every team is going to be the same. How do they catch us out, over the top, out wide, where our fullbacks have bombed on? And that's going to be a challenge, and we'll pick up some dodgy results along the way because of that. But when was the last time you were this excited? I've gotten past, in the space of the hour and 32 minutes that we've been on, gotten past Harry, and now I'm excited again. The roller coaster
that's
continues.
Good to hear, because you haven't even heard my take on the starting 11, so that's going to really get you out your seat.
All right, here we go.
Go on then.
Well, firstly, I've got a problem because I'm playing football at the moment. I'm kicking off at the moment. Spurs are kicking off at 2 p.m. on Sunday. I'm playing in a charity match, 90 minutes, leading the line. May I just add?
You're going to be the linesman. Is that what you're saying?
No. I'll be up top, mate. Don't you worry about that. The one thing I can guarantee is goals. So, yeah, that's a problem. But my I'm going to try and avoid the result and just go and watch it on catch up immediately afterwards while I'm making. Obviously it's Vicario in goal. Obviously Romero plays. I think fairly obviously that Emerson plays, to be honest, given he's our only defensive right back. I agree with you guys about Van der Ven. I think he will go straight in because I think it'd be bonkers to start Ben Davis, but there you go. Stranger things have happened. Udogie looks like he's getting the nod at left fullback. I agree with what Sean was saying earlier. He worries me a little bit defensively, but we shall see. Midfield, it's got to be Basuma for me, or has it? Could you put Skip in there and maybe play Basuma as an 8? So I'm going to say we do that. I'm going to say to beef at the midfield, we go Skip in the 6, Basuma and Maddison in the 8s, because I think that I'd rather see Basuma up there giving it a bit more beef than Sarr, who, I'm not being funny, is 10 stone wet through, and away at Brentford probably isn't the game to play him. I think what I'd like to see and what we will see are different, but I think we'll see Richarlison at the 9. I think we'll see Son on the left and Kula on the right. But I go back to what you guys said. I'd like to see Son in the middle, to be honest, Perisic on the left, and Kulu probably on the right, with Solomon coming in the game probably on about 60 minutes. Solomon's got a touch of the Aaron Lennon about him. I feel whenever I see him because he's small, he's rapid, and I think he's just going to really run tired defenders ragged. You wouldn't want to be playing him when you're knackered. No. You really wouldn't. So I think that's what I think we'll see. Pretty similar to you guys, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
the good thing is we do seem to have in attack, and I think even in the midfield, we do have a good set of options. I think we've got
loads of options. Midfield's got it's stacked with us. We haven't talked about Ndembele.
Who's still around somewhere. We're limited. The drop off of, when you go from Royale to Porro, Udogi to Reguilon, VDV to Davies, the drop in those positions are too much. So if we can just get that back line sorted out and reinforced, I think we've got a lot to work with this season.
Right, now here's where I want everyone in the chat, every single one. There's 252 of you still watching. Hopefully you've hit the like button. But what I want you to do is go in the chat right now and give us your score prediction. We're going to go around the room. Let's start with Stuart this time. We'll go in reverse order. Stuart, what's the score going to be?
3-1.
3-1.
Because we've seen
to Spurs, right?
Keep a clean sheet as usual.
Okay.
Right now.
HG?
And that's what I was going to say, if I'm honest, 3-1.
Oh, mate, I'll go 4-1 if you want.
For similar reasons to what Stuart said, I can see Spurs going 1-0 down because that's what Spurs will do, right? It'd be an early goal as well, and everyone's like, "Oh, here we go." But we went down an early goal to Barcelona in the week. It won't change us. It won't change what we want to do. So we just have to hope that we do well. But if we can get 20, 25 shots with half of those on target, even without Kane, I would hope that 2 or 3 will go in. And will that be enough? I hope so. Just avoid stupid free kicks.
Yeah. Mick Dundee, that's not a knife, that's a knife, has put in a super chat. Ange has been planning for no Kane from the start. I think that's true. He said that in the press conference today.
There's a few quite interesting quotes that have just come out of the embargoed section that Ange is saying that Son can play in Harry's role. So that might point to playing more central. Harry hasn't said his goodbyes. Ooh. Is it done?
He's left.
Well, yeah, he's gone.
Obviously.
And
a group Zoom meeting.
Yeah. Basically, Valise isn't going to see the pitch anytime soon. They're seeing him as very much a long-term signing. So I do think that points to there being probably another attacker coming in that is probably a little bit more advanced. So whether that is... because I wouldn't even classify Gift Orban as that because he's 19, very young. I wouldn't say that he's ready to start in the Premier League either. So maybe there is another move in the works.
If we're looking at, though, Sonny and Richie as the players that can play down the middle, then I don't know if you sign go after a big signing for a third striker. I don't know.
I don't think it'll be a striker. I see it's more likely to get another
winger who can also. Yeah.
That's the one for me.
That forward that we always tried to buy because we had Kane, so we couldn't buy a striker. So we had to buy wingers that could play strikers. But now that he's gone, we can't buy a striker. So we've got to buy wingers that can also play as strikers. Yeah.
Why don't we go for Traore? He's on a free. He's going to Fulham.
Maybe get him in. JP, score prediction.
3-2 Spurs.
3-2 Spurs. I was going to say 3-2.
There's a scenario where we draw this game. There's a scenario where we lose this game, but I'm optimistic right now. So
obviously, JP, those are the 3 possible outcomes. So
what I mean is they're not unlikely scenarios. As we kind of get used to this, but I'm optimistic today. So 3-2 Spurs.
Okay, we've got loads coming in, and I'll work through those.
Yeah,
there's 4-1 there. 3-2. Kerry's very optimistic. 5-1.
Go on, Kerry.
Yeah, we'd love to. There you go. Surprisingly, everyone's pretty much predicting a win.
I mean, we played Brentford first game back after the World Cup, right?
2-2.
And it was 2-2, and they were 2-0 up, and Kane and was it Højbjerg got the second? But like going into that game under defensive Conte, I think we have a better chance of winning on Sunday than we did then. I really do. And it's not just because we're a lot more attacking. It also helps that Ivan Toney's not fit or not playing. But I'm excited to see Spurs attack, and we all know that we could see another West Ham where they get 3 shots and score 3 goals. Right, those games happen. But if you're playing the odds, I will take the team that has 70% of the ball and 80% of the shots. Like it's. Yeah, if I'm a betting man, I'm betting on. Oh, no, it's not pure maths. No, I'm not saying that. But yeah, it just like logically, if you were going to play the odds, you would bet on Spurs. And okay, none of us have seen Brentford pre-season. I imagine we don't really know what they are.
I would say actually, I managed to catch a couple of not the tournament. It was the sort of Premier League in the USA stuff, and I saw them play Brighton, and they got absolutely torn apart by Brighton. I think I saw them play Villa as well, and they were pretty poor against Villa as well. So I don't know. Again, pre-season's not the indicator, is it? Because it's never a good indicator of what the league form's going to end up being. So, but I as I said before, I think Flecken is the weak point at the moment. If you pepper that goal, get a load of shots in, which we generally do, I think we're gonna score quite a lot of them. I'm just reading that Better Italia, as they do, are reporting that we're going after Vihalovic.
Yeah, I think that's a good signing.
I do, but I think they're full of shit. I mean,
Yeah,
Juventus need money. They absolutely need money.
Well, that's what makes sense to me. To be honest, that's the perfect fix, isn't it? It sorts them out, gives us a potentially world-class striker.
But I'd rather buy someone from them who I thought would suit our system. I don't think Vlahovic really does.
Think suits it.
Like, I don't know a great deal about all of Ange's teams, right? But I don't remember having a massive striker at Brisbane when I did live in Australia. Then I don't remember Celtic last season have a massive striker. Like their number 9 in effect scores the goals. Is the not a tap-in merchant, but is the guy who can shoot off either foot very well at short notice. Like
I agree.
That doesn't have time to think. So Vlahovic seems like the biggest name, and because Juventus need the money, it's an easy sell.
And because HG, I've got to throw this in there. We know that Daniel Levy goes for the biggest names when he's got a few quid in his pocket, and I think he's going to want to appease the fans with a fairly big name. I think that's the element we haven't discussed. Really.
23.
He knows the fans are already pissed off about ticket prices. The fans are already pissed off about the fact that Conte ended the way he did. They're going to be mega pissed off that Harry Kane's gone. He will try and get a win. He will with the fans, 100%. Sorry, HJ.
The good thing is, Juventus aren't in Europe because they got booted out, so it's not a downward thing for him.
No, interrupt this broadcast to tell you that Mick Dundee sent us another super chat. So thank you, Mick. We appreciate your support. Ange says the great Puskas said, "You only have to score one more than the opposition. In Ange, we trust. Come on, you Spurs." Very wise words.
Are we going to become like the modern version of the Magical Magyars or whatever they were called from the 1950s? That would be something. that would be pretty cool if we do that. Like if Juventus need money, can we go and buy Chiesa?
He's injured all the time, mate.
He's injured all the time.
He did about 2 ACLs in 2 years. He's like bloody Zaniolo. I wouldn't go for Chiesa, unfortunately.
Okay.
To your point, HG, around like how Ange plays, like Ange has played with big strikers before, but they're usually his like, okay, like we're getting a lot of the ball, we're getting a lot of crosses in, the cutbacks aren't working. Let's put a big guy in the box and see what happens. So they're they're a backup plan, if you will. He had Giacomakis at Celtic, who scored a load of goals, didn't play a load of minutes, and that's why he left. Because Kyogo was the guy who would press, the guy who would do all the running. I mean, he scored a lot of goals as well because they created a lot of chances. But that's the mold of striker that he wants, and he'll have one. But are we going to go and sign Vlahovic to be a bench option to Richarlison? Feels wild.
That's what big clubs do. Pay the money, Levy.
if you want a young striker that is apparently this huge work rate and all the rest of it, then this Gift Orban seems to be the guy. But again, he's not the big name that people seem to want. And I don't. We've talked about this many times before.
The football hipsters love him. So
I know we're just talking Twitter, and Twitter is obviously a very small portion of our fan base, but there is a general consensus that if Orban came in, people would be happy. So I could see that happening.
I think there'll be appeasement. I think they'll have to go after appeasement.
He's got to do something before the United.
Then buy a centre back.
Yeah.
Right. I mean,
we'll do that anyway.
We're going to get Longley for $2 million.
Yeah, Longley's on his way.
You get him on a free.
Just to wind up Davo a little bit more. Longley's on his way.
Did you not see Longley and Son at the end of the friendly game where they're both hugging, and Longley whispered to Son, he said, "I'll be back soon."
Well, my prediction is a 3-2 as well, and I think.
So 0-0 it is then.
It is every possibility. I mean, the worst thing can happen is after the week we've had with the whole Kane saga, that Spurs lose and then the mood. He's already not very good at Man United. It could turn toxic, but we'll deal with that on the Monday show. Yeah. I only want negative vibes today because I just can't be any more miserable. I feel like I'm in mourning. I really do.
Mourning?
I'm over it.
Man up.
Give over.
I'm over it.
You're a grown man.
Well, barely. The other thing I'm saying, if he does want to go for a left field forward option, I know I'm 41, but I am. It can scout me. I'm playing on the the field.
You're playing on the field.
Pitch one only gets used on special occasions, so it's like
you also have a dodgy ankle and a dodgy knee and a swollen belly
swollen belly. Yeah, absolutely. High pint consumption. So listen, we've been going an hour and 47 minutes. We hope we've cheered you up a little bit, because obviously it is a sad day when the record goal scorer for Spurs leaves. But there's so much to look forward to this season with Ange Ball. We think we're going to win at Brentford. You think we're going to win at Brentford. What could possibly go wrong? This is Spurs after all.
Do you want to ask the question?
HG, thanks for joining us this evening.
No, cheers. I enjoyed it.
Sean was obviously great, but you're a wonderful step-in. Stuart, thanks for joining again.
Yep, no worries. I'll be back on at some point next week, maybe.
Good man. And JP, sorry for waking you up, but not that sorry.
Thanks for waking me up. It's been good to wake up to have this chat and discover all things beautiful about Harry leaving. So we move forward.
There we go. And until next time, one man doesn't make a club makes a club. Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.
I thought you were going to say something.